Yes. So as I was discussing, the collector is tilted at angle beta with the horizontal plane, and at a given point of time, this is the sun ray line, and the normal to the collector makes angle theta with that line, which is nothing but the incidence angle. If you talk about the angle of the sun ray with the zenith, then this theta z is called zenith angle. This has this zenith angle has nothing to do with the collector, because it is about the horizontal surface, and the perpendicular to that is the vertical line, and then the sun ray is making some angle with that, so that is zenith angle. So that basically shows the angle of the sun ray with zenith. So if you say the collector is overhead, then the zenith angle is 0. And then the angle which is complementary to that is altitude angle. So that is this alpha s, right? We will use alpha s or just alpha. We will use alpha s or just alpha, and that is altitude angle, which basically gives the height of the sun in the sky. So if alpha s is 90 degrees or your zenith angle is 0, that is sun is overhead, means it is having the highest height. So if you might have observed, or you might observe it now, if it is summer, then the sun path will be higher in the sky, while in case of winter, the sun will move at a lower altitude, lower altitude, okay, in its path. So that is a observation that you can make, and that is about the altitude angle, right? So this sun ray and the projection of the sun ray, that angle, the angle between them, is nothing but the altitude angle. And then this surface is, if it is this horizontal line, and if you draw perpendicular to that, if it is exactly along the north south line, then your angle, this gamma, which is called surface azimuth angle, would be 0, right, if it is exactly facing the south. But like uh, 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 if it is slightly rotated, so in that case, it is not exactly facing the south. So the perpendicular to the collector is not coinciding with the north-south line. So the angle made is gamma, which is called the surface azimuth angle, which is the angle between the normal to the plane with the north-south line. And it will be positive when you are toward, if you when you rotated the collector towards east, and it will be negative if you have rotated collector towards west. And this sun ray, you can see, and its projection on the horizontal plane. So the projection of the sun ray on horizontal plane makes an angle, you can see gamma s with the north south line, and that angle is called solar azimuth angle. And that angle again would, if it is towards west, then it will be negative, and if it is towards east, then it will be positive. So in this case, this gamma s value would be negative. Now, because this sun ray, projection of the sun ray is on the west side, you can guess that yes, it is afternoon period that you are talking about, because like when it is noon, perfectly 12 hours local solar time, or LAT, local apparent time, this should coincide with south, and that would make this gamma as 0. But now the sun has moved forward or on the western side, and this gamma s is some number other than 0, and it is negative number if it is afternoon. So this is about different angles. Yes, we had discussed them already in the previous class, but for those who were not present, or could not revise it, I revised it. And then we had talked about the air mass also, which is basically the ratio of the length of the path traveled by the sun ray when it is passing through relative length, when it is passing through the atmosphere. So when it is not overhead, when it is overhead, the path is shortest. When it is not overhead, the path is longer, and the relative path is nothing but the air mass. Okay, so that's one nothing but 1 upon cos theta z. Theta z is zenith angle, or it is sec theta z. So you get the value of air mass with the help of that formula. And then this formula of incidence angle was given to you, which involves different angles. So you should have the knowledge of all these angles, starting from phi, that is latitude, beta is the tilt angle, delta the declination angle, gamma the surface azimuth angle. So all these angles and omega the hour angle, all those angles should be known to you. And if you replace the values, you get the value of cos theta. From that you can get the incidence angle. Now, as I had discussed, you can take some special cases if beta is equal to 0, that is, if your collector is horizontal, then the formula will get very much simplified as it is seen here. And that is actually like if the surface of the collector is horizontal, so the normal to the collector is nothing but zenith. So this angle cos theta that you're talking about is actually cos theta z. So that's the zenith angle. The formula for the zenith angle can be found this way. You can talk about the other special cases like beta is equal to 90 degrees. That is, if you're talking about a vertical surface, or you're talking about a collector which is exactly facing the south. So in that case, your gamma will be equal to 0. So such special cases may simplify the formula. And then this angle was this example was taken. I will slightly change the data of this example and give you another example as an assignment, so that you can do the calculations for that, which will help you to practice for this type of problems, as well as try to understand what you get from the results of this problem. So here we talked about a collector which is at New Delhi. So longitude, latitude are given, and a particular day of the year is given, and a particular time is given. But this time 2 p.m. is Indian Standard Time. It is not the local apparent time. So what you need to do is, let's say you first want to get the equation of time correction. So you get it with the help of this formula, and it depends upon the day number. So day number is used, and you get B. From that you get the equation of time correction. In this example, it should come out to be minus 13.87 minutes. Then you can use the formula for the local apparent time, which is seen here. And then this equation of time correction should be put in which unit? It should be in hours, right? It should be in hours. So you have to divide whatever was the equation of time correction in minutes. You have to divide it by 60. Once you get LAT, you can get the hour angle. So in this case, at 2 p.m. IST, the hour angle is minus 21.17. Right? It is more than 15 degrees and still less than 30 degrees. So as per the local apparent time, it's actually not 2 p.m. It is somewhere between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. right? Because the angle is between 15 degrees and minus 15 and minus 30. Then you could get the declination angle, and now you can calculate the incidence angle. So incidence angle comes out to be 32.79. You are advised to practice this example so that the chances of making mistake in such lengthy formula is less. And if you find out the zenith angle, that simplified formula, if you use, you will get that the zenith angle is 44.35 degrees, right? So at least at this point of time, you can observe that your incidence angle is less than the zenith angle. So that tells you that there is an advantage in keeping the collector inclined to the horizontal plane. In this case, it was kept in inclined, means I am talking about the tilt angle. So tilt angle was equal to the latitude angle here, and it gave the benefit because your cos theta of this number will be less than the more than the cos theta of this higher angle, right? So you get more input energy. Of course, ideally this should be 0, but for fixed collectors it happens only twice a year. Right, so you should keep it at an optimum angle so that overall energy input into your collector is maximized. Now, in case of, let's say, solar water heater, one might be interested in winter season more than the summer season because of two reasons. Like in winter, you need more hot water if you are particularly it is for the bathing purpose or even for maybe dishwashing purpose. Of course, for the later purpose, the quantity may not much get affected. But at least for bathing purpose, let's say it's a domestic application or a hotel application, then winter season is more of interest to you. And you might find that if you keep your collector more inclined, then you get more energy in the winter. Of course, there will be an optimum angle, and beyond that, again, it may start decreasing. So such analysis also may be done, though here we are talking about only one point of time, and from that also it is seen that at this particular point of time you get more energy from the sun ray if it is kept inclined rather than keeping it horizontal. Okay, so now let's go further about the further concepts. So let us talk about how one can get the sunrise time, sunset time, and the day length. So we are actually interested in sunrise time and sunset time, not for any other purpose, not for astrology or astronomy purpose, but basically the difference between sunrise time and sunset time gives you the day length. And what is the importance of day length? The solar energy availability depends upon the day length. So why do you get less energy in the winter, less solar energy in the winter? The extraterrestrial solar energy is perhaps higher, but then the angle at which the sun, so if you find the altitude angle or if you find zenith angle, like for a particular day, you might do this exercise. For a particular day in winter, let's say you take 1st of January, right, and try to find the incidence or rather zenith angle at a particular time. Let's say even you can take 12 hours, that is noon. So you will find that in winter, the altitude angle will be lower and your zenith angle would be higher even at the time of solar noon. And you may take a day in summer, let's say you take 31st of May and get the angle, that is get the zenith angle and altitude angle. You'll find that the altitude angle is higher. It means that your air mass, average air mass in winter would be higher, and average air mass in summer would be lower. So obviously the sun rays, when they have to travel a longer path, that is more of attenuation. So the intensity reduces, and again like the direct radiation component percentage might decrease, and the other one, that is diffuse radiation component, might increase. So that is one reason why you get less energy. And second reason is that the number of hours for which you get the energy is also less. Sunrise and sunset time, the day length is less, right? So this is one of the reasons why we are interested in the in finding the day length here. Okay, so here the path of the sun in the sky on different days of the year are shown. Okay, so you are on this particular place, and this is the horizontal surface near your point of viewing. Okay, so local surface may be considered to be horizontal surface. The arc of the earth or the curvature is not considered because you are taking a very small area. So if you are talking about the this summer solstice around 21st of June or 22nd June, then what you find that what is the path taken, you can see it by the arrow, this arrow, right? This dashed line and the arrows are drawn on that, right? So this is the path of the sun in the sky, right? Then if you are talking about, let's say, the equinox days, then this is the path which is traveled by the sun. And if you are talking about some winter day, let's say the winter solstice around 21-22 December, then this is the path taken by the sun. So this path will be longer, right? In summer it will be longest. On equinox days it will be shorter than that, and in winter it will be shortest. So the difference between the sunrise time and sunset time also will be longer on summer days, will be equal, that is night and days will be equal on equinox days, and the day will be shorter on 21st of December. And as you might have noticed, this is the plane in which the sun is moving, right? This arc, if you consider a plane passing through that arc, what you find is that the intersection of that arc uh, uh, will be on the northern side in summer, it will be on the southern side in winter, and it will pass through your point of observation on equinox days. In addition to that, this plane through which this arc is passing is actually an inclined plane, and that inclination will be equal to it will be in case of equinox, sorry, not equinox, equator. When you are on the equatorial plane or on equator, you'll find that the sun is always like during at noon it is overhead, right? So in that case, there won't be any inclination of this plane. It will always be on a vertical plane. It will always be on a vertical plane. So the angle made by this plane with the horizontal plane is equal to 90 minus latitude angle. 90 minus latitude angle. So if your latitude is 0, that is equator, then the sun will move on a vertical plane. And for other latitudes, it is 90 minus latitude, right? So higher the latitude, more the angle or inclination of this plane with the horizontal plane. Yeah, so that was about the inclination of this plane and intersection of the plane in which sun moves with the horizontal surface. But we are talking about the sunrise time and sunset time and the day length. So what do you think will be the value of some of the angles that we discussed about? Out of that, the two angles are of interest to us. One is the zenith angle, and second the altitude angle. So what do you think? Like at the time of sunrise and sunset, what would be altitude angle and how much would be the zenith angle? The altitude angle, of course, there is no altitude, the sun is on the horizon, so alpha has to be equal to 0. And this alpha, altitude angle and the zenith angle are complementary to each other, right? They are complementary to each other. Okay, so because they are complementary to each other, at the time of sunrise and sunset, right, at the time of sunrise, alpha will be equal to 0 and theta z would be equal to 90 degrees, right? And similarly 90 degrees, it can be plus or minus, it will be plus here, and it will be negative value 90 degrees at the time of sunset. So you can use those values of the zenith angle to get what is of interest to you? Time. So time is related. First we will get the time in terms of the local time, local solar time, or LAT. So that is related with which angle? It is related with hour angle. So we will get the hour angle for the sunrise time and sunset time, and then the difference between those two will give us the day length. So let's do that exercise. So what I have written, we are talking about the zenith angle, and what is the formula for zenith angle? It's already derived. So sine phi sine delta, cos phi cos delta, cos omega. Cos omega, omega is what? Omega is hour angle, and I have put S here to indicate that it is the sunrise time, right? Okay. Now we know that this theta z is going to be equal to 90 degrees, right? Alpha is equal to 0, theta is equal to 90 degrees at the time of sunrise. So I put cos 90, which is nothing but 0. So this right hand side should be equal to 0. So I have rewritten this. I have taken this part on the right hand, or maybe I have kept it same and taken the first term on the right hand side, which makes it left hand side, which makes it negative. Or basically this omega s, that is our angle at the time of sunrise, can be found with this formula, cos inverse of, so this cos phi, cos delta is taken on this side, so it makes it tan phi tan delta, right? And then cos inverse, so tan phi tan delta, cos inverse of minus tan phi tan delta gives the our angle, value of our angle at the time of sunrise is given by this formula. So don't think that our angle will always be equal to like 15 multiplied by 6, so 90 degrees all the time. No, that's not correct. During the winter days, you will find that omega s is lower, and during summertime, you'll find that the value is higher. So it basically gives you like how much is it away from 12 noon, local solar noon. That will be given by this angle, that is our angle. So you know how to get LAT from our angle, right? It is 12, like omega s is equal to 12 minus LAT into 90 degrees. So if if omega s is available, you can find the local apparent time, right? And if you just if you get this in hours, the angle you get in degrees, right? If you divide it by 15 degrees and multiply with if you divide it by 15 degrees, it will give you hour fraction, hour. So you can just divide it by 15 degrees, it will give the answer in hours. And then if you multiply it by 2, you will get the day length. So this is how you get the day length. The day length, capital S, is this cos inverse tan phi tan delta. It's nothing but the hour angle. You have divided it with 15 degrees. You may put right degrees here because yeah, cos inverse is an angle, right, in degrees. If you get it in degrees, then you put degrees here, so that you get it in a fraction of an hour, right? So 2 multiplied by this will give you the length of the day, right? And what you find that, like if you are in on equator, then in that case you will find that this is always equal to 12 hours. That is, sunrise and sunset always will happen 6 hours before and after the solar noon. Okay, so this is how you will be able to get the day length. And this is just one website on which you get, for your location, you can get the sunrise and sunset time, right? So I have written it for Ahmedabad. So I got this, the latitude and longitude and the sunrise time for a particular day. If it is 16th of July, today it is 20th of July. Right, so you might be close to this. So it is 6 hours and 4 minutes and sunset time 1926. So you can check with this formula whether you are getting this and whether this is Indian Standard Time or local apparent time, right? You should check that. Okay, so one example is shown here. I hope you are with your pen, paper and calculator, so that this is of course not a very complicated or difficult example. You can quickly do the required calculations. So if you are talking about 7th of July, then for Vadodara city, whose latitude is 22.5 degrees, what is the day length on that day, right? What you can expect is that the longest day has just gone, so the day length will be still long, right? So that is, it should be more than 12 hours. That is what you might expect. So let's try and do this exercise. What is the day number for 7th of July? You start with the January 31, February 28. And now somebody may ask that sometimes it is 28 and sometimes it is 29. It won't matter much, so don't worry about the leap year. Just take 28 all the time. So 28, 31 for March, then April, and then May 31, and then again June 30, and then 7th of July. So it is day number is 188. Then you can get the declination angle with the help of this formula, delta. So delta is equal to 23.45 sine of 284 plus 188 divided by 365 and then multiplied by 360 degrees and get the value of delta. So let me check whether somebody is replying on the chat. So what is the value of delta you get? You can write it in the chat box in case you are calculating. Yeah, so if somebody is calculating, he can write calculating, or otherwise I'll move forward. Okay, so I'm not sure whether you people are equipped with required
22.59.
Okay, good. 22.59, very good. Yeah, so who was he? You can write your answer here so that I can know who has replied. Write it in the chat box. Yes, RS Gandhi. Good. So 22.59. Yeah, now everybody can answer. Hope they have done the calculation and answering. Nothing wrong in writing even now, but then with computers, the copy paste business is very easy. So okay, let's move forward. Yeah, now you can mute yourself. Anybody who had unmuted. Okay, so delta is 22.59. Yes, you can expect this because June 22 was 23.45 degrees. So you are slightly now moving towards zero, but still it is 22.59. And then the sunrise time is given by cos inverse of 10 phi 10 delta, right? So you can try this also. What is the value of phi? The value of phi is 22.5 degrees. So you can put 22.5 degrees, 10 of 22.5 degrees and 10 of 22.59. Both of them are close. So 22.5 and 22.59. And then the multiplication of those two and finding cos inverse of that would give you our angle, right? So you can write that in the chat box, right? Only the first person will get the credit. Yeah, good. So Mr. Gandhi seems to be very quick. 99.92. Somebody has, if that answer is different, you can always write. Okay, so let's check whether it is 99.92. Yes, very close, right? So there could be some rounding of errors, so it is same. So 99.93. So what do you mean by this? It is more than 90 degrees, right? So day length is 15 6 is 90. So day length on one side. Okay, this basically gives you angle before the solar noon, right? Okay, so 99.93. It means it is more than 6 hours, 90 degrees. So day length is more than double of 6 hours. That is, it's more than 12 hours, right? That is what you can get. So you can see this 99.93 divided by 15 degrees is 6.66 hours. So that is the day length on one side, and multiplied by 2 would give you the total day length, right? So or you can use this formula TSR is 12 minus omega s upon 15 degrees. So that is the time of sunrise, right? So it is 5.34 hours, but this is solar time for your location, Vadodara. It's not Indian Standard Time. If you want to get Indian Standard Time, then you have to use this. You have to put this in the formula for local apparent time, or this is local apparent time, and you have to get Indian Standard Time. It is an opposite exercise that you have to do if you want to get the time in your watch, right? So for that, you have to do that exercise. That is, this is local apparent time. You want to get like Indian Standard Time, but you have to do the required corrections for the difference in meridian between Vadodara and Allahabad, Shankargarh, and also the equation of time correction for this day. Right? So I leave that exercise to you. I have written it, but I'm not sure whether I have done that exercise. But if you want to get this standard time, that is at what time, let's say you want to wake up in morning to witness the sunrise. So if you want to do that and you want to know at what time should I put my alarm, for what time. So for that you need to know the standard time at which the sunrise will occur. So you need to get the standard time from LAT, because you know the LAT, right? You know the LAT, but you need to know the corresponding standard time, which can be found with the help of this formula. Okay, so you can do this exercise and find the standard time for the sunrise for this particular day at this particular location. And the day length is given by this formula 2 into 2 upon 15 degrees cos inverse of this. So you get the day length, which is 13.32 hours, just double of that 6.66. So it is 13.32 hours. So day length is more than 12 hours because you are talking about summer. It's July is like, though we call it monsoon, it is like if clouds are not there, it is kind of summer only, right? So it is 13.32 hours. Okay. So this was some discussion on different angles, and our purpose of knowing the angles was one of the important thing was to be able to get the value of cos theta at a particular point of time for a particular solar collector inclined at a particular angle to the horizontal plane at a particular location. So one example was done in that direction, and second example, the day length calculations was done. So longer the day, higher the solar energy you can collect, because your span has increased, right? So one of the reasons why India is getting high amount of solar radiation is that the like it is near to equator, so you get more radiation. Okay, so now the next discussion is on the solar radiation measurement and calculation. Okay, so how do you measure the solar radiation falling at a particular place? Of course, the instantaneous value may be of some interest, but generally continuous measurement over the whole year and then over multiple years is of more interest. But if you are performing some experiment, you're doing testing of a collector, then you might be interested to know what was the solar radiation like intensity in watt per meter square during that period of time. So that would be the kind of, it will give the input energy to the collector, and you are, let's say, measuring or calculating the output energy from the collector, and you can get the efficiency of your collector. So measuring the solar radiation is also of interest. And as you know, there are two components of the solar radiation. One component is one which is traveling in the straight line and directly reaching the surface of the earth, which is called the direct radiation or beam radiation. And the other component is the one which is coming from the whole hemisphere of the sky, right? We are assuming that the sky is isotropic. That is, the radiation, diffuse radiation is coming from 180 degrees, the half sphere, hemisphere is coming equally from all the sides. That is the assumption that we have to make almost all the time. So that diffuse radiation component is also to be considered, and direct plus diffuse gives you the total radiation falling on the surface of the earth. So which are the instruments which can be used to find the solar radiation flux or solar irradiance, whose unit is watt per meter square? So one of the most important instrument is called pyranometer. Now this instrument called pyranometer measures the total radiation, or it is also called global radiation. So total or global radiation is nothing but the sum of direct radiation or beam radiation and diffuse radiation. So this figure gives you the picture and the construction details of a pyranometer. So as you can see, like the picture is seen here, and then the components like the cross section is shown here, and the numbers are also indicated. So 1 and 2 are two concentric glass spheres. Okay, so 1 and 2 are two concentric glass spheres, right? As you can see here in this figure also, if you observe like minutely, you will be able to see one outer sphere as well as one inner sphere. So they are the glass hemispheres. I will tell you about the purpose of each and every component. The third one is black absorber disc, right? So here you see a black absorber disc. It is hardly possible to see such a disc here, but there is a black absorber disc here. So of course, if you have to describe a pyranometer, then you will be drawing this diagram, the diagram on the right hand side, right? The line diagram. Of course, you are not expected to draw the picture of a pyranometer. This is more for better understanding and getting the real picture, so that in case you come across this device, you can identify device. So this 1 and 2 glass hemisphere, 3 is black absorber disc. Now what happens is the solar radiation is falling from all directions on this glass hemisphere. It is coming from all directions. Let's say the sun ray is coming from a particular direction and falling on these spheres, but then from other directions also the diffuse radiation is coming. So all of it is accepted by these glass hemispheres, right? And they are having very high transmissivity. The glass material should be high quality so that the transmissivity is very high. We have such a pyranometer, the secondary standard pyranometer in our lab. Let's see if it is possible sometime to show you that. But of course, it looks very similar to what you see here in this picture. So this now, like there are like good quality pyranometers, as well as there are certain such devices which are marketed as pyranometer, but they are actually having very high error in measurement, right? So a lot of compromises might have been made in the design of such a pyranometer, and normally like all are imported still even till date. Okay, so a good quality pyranometer, generally the cost would be somewhere around exceeding around 1.5 lakh rupees. Okay, so that's about like good quality pyranometer. Yes, so the transmissivity of the this glass hemisphere should be very high, so that most of the radiation, solar radiation falling on these hemispheres, pass through them and reach the black coated surface here, which should have very high absorptivity, So it absorbs a very high percentage of the radiation which is falling on that. And when it absorbs, basically the radiation gets converted into heat energy. So that heats up the plate. Now this plate heats up, and then there is a, you can read this 4 and 5. 4 is compensating disk, 5 is sensing element or thermopile. You might be knowing what is a thermopile. Thermopile is multiple thermocouple couples like connected in series to increase its amplitude, so that you are more accurate when you read the millivolt reading provided, and then you calibrate it in watt per meter square, and you might be able to read it directly in watt per meter square if it is calibrated accordingly. Or you might read millivolt reading, and then you might have a table which gives you millivolt and corresponding solar radiation intensity in watt per meter square. So it's the principle of measurement of a thermocouple. That is, it has a hot junction and it has a cold junction. Cold junction ideally should be kept at 0 degrees. If you here, you will not be keeping it at 0 degrees, but then there will be certain electronics built up into this, which will produce a corresponding signal for the like difference between the 0 degree Celsius and the ambient temperature. And that is one of the purpose of keeping this compensating disk. So compensating disk is at ambient temperature, so it provides the required correcting signal, and you correct the signal which is produced by this absorber plate, and there is a thermopile below that, so it's going to give you millivolt signal which has to be corrected, and then you transmit it through this cable, right? This 6 is transmission cable, and then you have a readout device. The cable is connected with a device. Either it can be a millivolt meter, or it can be an analog meter, or it can be a digital voltmeter, or it can be directly a device which gives you reading in for solar energy intensity watt per meter square. So through transmission cable, you transmit it to the readout device, and this like the inner components and the electronics has to be kept at a very low humidity. So you put desiccant material. Ideally, it should be changed over a year or a couple of years, so that the inner components remain dry, and the moisture does not affect the functioning of the components here. And then many times you want to measure the radiation falling on the horizontal surface. So you might want to keep it use these leveling screws to be able to keep it horizontal, and you have a spirit level which will indicate whether it is horizontal or not. But yes, many times it is used on inclined surface to get the direct total radiation on a particular inclined surface. We'll see that later. And then there is a sunscreen, or the guard plate, this number 9, which basically when it is raining, though it is written sunscreen, it's actually, I think, more of value at the time of rain, because these instruments are kept outdoors in like it can even be in harsh weather conditions, and it should always protect the inner components from like leaching of water into it. So it has to protect it, and that's why this guard is used. Okay, so this is the sunscreen, or rather it is a protecting guard or guard plate, which is used here to protect the inner components, particularly from rainfall. Okay, so these are the different components, and the basic functioning or principle is that the radiation passing through this. Now you might ask why these spheres are required. You don't want to expose this plate to the weather and the effect of weather, because otherwise it will degrade the material. That is one part. And second, you also don't want to lose the heat immediately from this from the plate. So that's why you have protected it with the help of these spheres. So double glass cover reduces the convection effect to a great extent, and that's why two guard or the concentric glass hemispheres are used. We will talk about the greenhouse components, and you will understand the effect of the glass in reducing the heat loss, particularly convection heat loss. Right. So there are two purposes. One, like the protection from weather, and second, the reduction of the heat loss from the surface. So basically, radiation gets converted into heat. So hot junction is at a lower temperature, cold junction is hot junction is at a higher temperature, cold junction at a lower temperature or 0 degrees Celsius. Compensating signal is given by measuring the ambient temperature, and then basically heat or the temperature gets converted into millivolt signal, which is transmitted through this cable, and you have a device which measures the signal either in millivolts, or if this device is calibrated to convert millivolt into watt per meter square, it directly gives you the irradiance. Right. So that's the principle, construction and principle of measurement of a pyranometer. Okay, so this is one of the devices which is used to measure the total radiation or global radiation, which is sum of direct or beam radiation and diffuse radiation. Right. So like if there is a weather station, right, you might be knowing that at different locations the weather department has put up different instruments. So for measuring the solar radiation, pyranometer is one of the most important instruments. In addition to that, you will also have something called pyrheliometer and pyrheliometer, and then the measurement of wind velocity and direction, and the precipitation, etc. Those type of instruments will be there. So pyranometer is one of the very important instruments that you have, which we just discussed, and we'll discuss the further instruments in the next lecture, as well as some other ways like the pyranometer is kept inclined. Why is it kept inclined? We'll discuss that in the next class, and then we will also talk about the something which is called the sensitivity of the pyranometer, like which is generally which is mentioned when you buy a pyranometer in the in your this catalog. It will be given, and or manual it will be given, and then some other comparatively economical instruments like silicon photodiodes and reference cells, and then shading ring and pyrheliometer, etc. will also be discussed in the coming lecture. Yes, so I hope you have marked your attendance, and okay, so